example, who insisted upon the introduction of race as well as gender into readings and understandings of nationalism in North Africa, specifically in Algeria, and in understanding formations of subjectivity and identity. And if you go look at Frantz Fanon's classic work on black skins, white masks, you'll see that he pays attention to gender in a very key and critical way. And if you haven't looked at Fanon's work or Amilcar Cabral's work or any of the big Pan-African scholars' work, go reread it and ask yourselves, how do they pay attention to gender, or whether they pay attention to gender. So just to show you that a critical epistemology has to also ask questions around gender. Now, in terms of epistemology, if we are, as scholars, trying to make a critical intervention into dominant epistemes, okay, we need to ask questions about where we collect our information from, whom we collect our information from, and how dominant theorists or studies that are dominant in whatever discipline we're working in, who have they paid attention to, how have they collected that information, and how we might collect information in a different way. Okay. Now, I want you to for a moment, focus on Mahmoud Mamdani's very early work on a critical study on family planning in India. Now, Mamdani was trying there to understand why it was that despite local, the local family planning, there's a bit of a problem. Okay, let me. Mamdani was trying to understand. Maybe I should do this.
No, it's not on this mic.
Right?
It's not here.
There's some resonance somewhere.
Good. Okay,
Shall
go
I
on,
try
speak.
Okay, he was trying to understand how it is that the ordinary villagers were rejecting the motivators' attempts to get local women to use contraception. And they were using all sorts of incentives, payment to get these women to use contraceptive tablets. And then he decided to do a broader understanding, looking at the political economy of that particular local community and the value, the meaning of children within that local economy, both within an understanding of the value of childhood and work, as well as other deeper values around children for the continuity of those communities. And that helped him. It's a political economic study of contraception, basically. What that helped him understand was why these people were rejecting contraceptives, even though there were these incentives in the short term. Okay? It's like the one-child family policy in China too. Okay? Despite efforts in rural areas in China to get peasant farmers to commit to that one-child policy, and all sorts of punitive measures taken even to this day against families who decide to have second children, people still go ahead and have those second children. And just from a basic political economy study in rural China, it became very clear that people rely heavily on children for labor. And it just doesn't make sense if you are working the land in a context of not having access to mechanized agricultural production. The more hands on board, the better. So from the perspective of the local, it was important to have those children. Of course, it also had to do with the care of elderly parents in relation to eldest sons taking care. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is, if we had just done a survey study.
You're not getting the interpretation.
Okay.
It is okay.
If we had just done a survey study of people, in the case of Mandani, in that local village study in India, if you had just done a quick survey study of those people who came to the family planning talks, and you had only gained information from the more educated Indian motivators who are obviously hired by these international family planning programs, you would only get a perspective that possibly would have said it's a cultural block. But if you continue using qualitative methodologies through observation, for example, of the way labor is divided in households, if you had done some kind of in-depth survey or interviews with peasant farmers or families that are heavily reliant on children's labor, you would have gotten yet another perspective on the value of children and the value of labor in that context, which would give you another take on the meanings of fertility and of children and childbearing. That explains why people were rejecting the use of contraception. Are you with me here? Okay. But the point is, as you well know, being in the academy, we have particular theoretical trajectories that are given to us, okay? Which is why curricula matter. Next time a professor sticks a curriculum into your hands, look at who's writing and where they are located. It's very important to ask that question, and whether you're getting a diversity of perspectives in that curriculum. Are there men, are there women scholars, are they northern and southern based? Now the reason why feminists have insisted on bringing in gender in as a critical intervention into both theory and epistemology is because what was being given to us in the academy as a dominant theoretical perspective was really a particular theory written from a male perspective and being generalized to incorporate the perspectives of everyone. And this is true both in the north and the south. Okay? A simple study such as Marx's theories, I mean, Marx is brilliant, for example, okay, but it took Marxist feminist economists to ask questions about the meanings of reproduction, women's reproductive labor, and Marx's friend Engels. Remember, Engels had that classic book on the origins of the family and private property in the state, and he had to look at gender. Go look at that text. Studies on African nationalism are often also androcentric. Fanon's study is a case that is exceptional. In Southern Africa, where women get introduced either through the work of Samora Machel or other nationalist studies, women are brought in as part of the broader collective in terms of feeling a nationalist intervention against the North. You look at Jomo Kenyatta's work on Kikuyu women and female genital cutting, for example. And so you've got to ask questions also about how the gender question is being introduced and to make what kind of intervention. So let me encourage you, go and look at these key classic texts, Jomo Kenyatta facing Mount Kenya, Fanon, these people writing on African nationalisms, and ask, is gender part of this, and how is gender being introduced? And bear in mind, women aren't the only ones who have gender. Men also have gender. Okay. Okay, now the importance of feminist research has been to recuperate women's experiences and their perceptions of power. And in relation to this particular institute on governance, a key question in feminist political science is, what does governance structures and processes mean for women? Okay, and how do we incorporate women's experiences and participation in citizenship, statehood, and governance into our broader theoretical perspectives? And these interventions is the focus of critical social science in Africa. Yes.
Oui, vous avez dit qu'on si vous êtes interrompu à chaque fois qu'on a une question.
Hold on a second. Sorry, I'm a bit slow. Okay, go ahead.
Comment poser une question en matière de genre, c'est très important parce que c'est là où commence même la recherche.